It had been a long time since there was somebody like me. I was ambitious. I wanted to have the best Wrestlemania casket match that had been done. Success is different for everybody. When you see that master lock break, like my hands shook and hurt for like 2 or 3 days after that. Roman Reigns, they throwing up the one with him. When I came to the ring, you weren't allowed to share in my victories. Physically, I'm not what I used to be. And if somebody hit me now, I'm calling the police. But back then, man, you better call the National Guard if you mess with me.
Rewind, recap, relive. For over 50 episodes, the revolutionary force in wrestling interview.
My guest today is a legend, plain and simple, left his mark in the WWE with many accolades, namely former World Heavyweight Champion, WWE Hall of Famer, and is paying his forward now his success with scouting younger stars like Jade Cargill, Braun Strowman, Samantha Irvin, just to name a few. Please welcome AEW star, the world's strongest man, Mark Henry.
What's going on, man? Nice to meet you, John.
It's so nice to meet you, Mark. So nice to see you again. Last time I saw you was on Cafe de Rene. I was Renee's co-host that day. And you were a judge at a food competition then. And I hear you have another one coming up in July in South Carolina. Can you tell us about this passion of yours that you've taken on with food?
My food always played a big part in my development as far as being an athlete, as well as my mother and grandmother were both really good cooks and actually did it for a living, cooked entire dinners for people and clean houses. And I grew up kind of doing the same thing. And in the process, I just learned a lot. And it was not only fun and kind of therapeutic, but you got to eat well. So it had a lot of pluses.
No, definitely. What's one of your favorite recipes that you picked up?
I like Cajun. I like gumbo, etouffee, jambalaya, things to that nature. But soul food, Spanish, like paellas and so forth, I like.
No, that's delicious. What's the event coming up in July?
It's the Southeastern Barbecue Championships.
Oh,
and
perfect.
Alabama will be performing. It'll be at Sacred Park, the baseball stadium. Just a lot of fun. You know, anytime you get barbecue cultures together from all over the world, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
People from Japan are going to be there. There's at least 2 or 3 Canadian and Spanish or Mexican teams that are coming. So when it's international, it's a big deal.
Yeah, no, I don't see how that could be a bad time either. All that culture and food is great. And this isn't your first interview today, right? I saw us all over Busted Open, Undertaker. That's huge.
Yeah.
How was that for you?
Oh, it was awesome. Anytime you get a chance to get an iconic Hall of Fame wrestler, athlete, entertainer, dancer, musician on a podcast or on a live show, it's grounds for celebration because it's hard to get people that people care about.
Right.
But it's even harder to get somebody that appreciates your effort and wants to support.
Yeah. No, that's really well said. And Busted Open in general, you said how much effort you put into it. I feel like it's cool for fans to see a different side of you too. A more maybe emotional and like a fan almost side of you. The fans of you can see you be a fan of wrestling too. So that's awesome. Have you enjoyed doing Busted Open with a Bully Ray and Dave LaGreca?
I've enjoyed it a lot. It has brought a lot out of me that, some of the things I didn't know I had, but a lot of them that I did know that I wanted to do. I think the number one thing is being able to let people tell the stories about how they became who they became. And I always like origin story movies. How did this guy get to this point? What did this woman have to go through to get to that success? But that's what I try to get out of people whenever I'm interviewing, I have them on my show.
No, I mean, that's good advice for people like me just trying to, starting something like this out too. I see myself growing with it with every interview, and it's true. You gotta let the guests talk and tell their story because I feel like everyone wants to get their story out there, right? Everyone, for the most part, loves their own story.
Yeah, I mean, some people don't love their stories, and that's fine too. I used to be ashamed of kind of where I came from. I grew up really, really poor. My mother never made more than $12,000 in a year. You wore hand-me-down clothes, and but I didn't even know that I was poor until I went somewhere. When I left my town, then I felt inadequate.
Right.
And, so it was like, where you from? And I'd be like, Southeast Texas town. I wouldn't tell people because I didn't think people would understand and see the strength in what it took to get out of where I came from. And the older I got, the more people have been like, listen, I drove through that place. How in the hell are you?
Wow.
How did you get out? Like, what was it? And with me, it's real simple. I tell people that my faith in God and all the people praying for me to leave and pushing me to leave got me to the point to where I started to believe. It's kind of like a lot of people don't realize that the movie The Matrix was based off a book called The Third Eye Blind. And it's about Jesus. So Neo's character is really Jesus. And the opposite side of that coin is he didn't believe that he was Jesus. And everybody keeps saying, no, the prophecy is true, that you're coming, that you're him.
Yeah.
People have been saying this for thousands of years. And they changed it up a lot.
Right.
But they changed it up, I think, pretty decent enough for me to watch every series 5 times. So to enjoy that and to understand it is kind of me. Like, I believe that I could make it. I believe that I could do the impossible. And I was able to not only find something that I was good enough at that I could get out, I sacrificed so I didn't make the mistakes to derail that success. So it was, I've had a great upbringing and a great transition to being the man that I became.
Yeah, and to go off of that, I mean, I want to get into a project that, well, first of all, thank you, Marshall and Stephanie, members of your team, for helping to set this up. And they mentioned the Remarkable brand to me, which is, I believe, an extension of your brand, Mark Henry, everything you have built up. But can you tell us what the Remarkable brand is all about?
Remarkable is not only a play on words with my name and finding something that had Mark in it that was positive and true.
I thought that was
But,
clever when they said that. Yeah.
But you want people to realize that your name doesn't have to be tied to something tough. Mm. Your name don't have to be tied to something that's secular or violent, or it can be something as simple as remarkable, because you don't have to always become, remarkable, but as long as you're trying, and long as you understand that you can be something. A lot of people don't have faith and hope. This world has stomped the hope and faith out of people, and success is different for everybody. I've known people that have made billions of dollars, and I've known people that live check to check, and I know people that have fallen so far down that they didn't think that they can wake up another day and do it all over again. But they find a way to find that strength. And I found that to be remarkable, that internal strength. And it's not just a physical strength. I respect the hell out of physical strength,
Right.
but intestinal fortitude and a wherewithal to see that tomorrow I get another chance.
Yeah.
You know, like that's what I found remarkable, and was why the word was so on point for what I wanted to brand to be a part of.
That's beautiful. No, really, I love everything that it encapsulates. And so, are you looking for remarkable people to highlight with that?
I am. I want to do once remarkable takes off the way I think it will. We want other remarkable athletes,
Okay.
and whether even if it's not an athlete, there's historians and artists and people that I feel like are remarkable. I see people on the internet that are doing stuff that I'm entertained by.
Yeah.
So I feel like, hey, I'm a pretty good barometer of what's entertaining and what's good. Why don't I share that? And I let them know, hey, man, I find you to be remarkable. Why don't you come on my website and show the world who you are? And that's kind of where the remarkable brand is going to start. TheMarkHenry.com it exists. We're going to open the store up soon.
Oh, nice.
People that want to get a hold of me and have me do public speaking, or people that want me to come and sign autographs and make appearances, mentor, like all of the things that are necessary for people to see that you're trying to help change the world. That's where you pick it up.
Yeah. And I'll link it below, but I love that so much. And I can't wait to see who you choose, who some of these people you're picking are. To bring it back to the beginning of your journey, in doing research, I saw a story that I had actually never seen before. So let's see if it's true or not. Is it true that you had an interaction with one of your favorite wrestlers at the time, Andre the Giant, at a live wrestling event?
Yeah, as about an 10-year-old kid somewhere in there.
Wow.
At the Beaumont Civic Center, I saw him coming down the aisle, try to reach out and touch him like I've seen hundreds of thousands of kids do, and got clipped and pushed over, and Andre picked me up and put me back on the other side of the barricade. And I think that there was some kind of a transference of power at that point, because not only did I get to see something that looked like us walking out your front door and seeing an alien, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
I got touched by one, and I never ever forgot that. And I told that story 1,000 times, I bet, in my life. And the only people that really truly got it were wrestling fans.
Yeah.
They just could understand, like, bro, how did he grab you? Like, people start asking questions, and I start smiling and laughing, because it's the little bitty detail that makes them feel like they was a part of it. And so I've never deprived nobody of telling it. If they ask about it, I let them know.
That's so cool. Yeah, I mean, it's a great story. And yeah, as a wrestling fan, when I read it, I was like, did he just pick him up? Like, like dangle him, just put him right back over the barricade? Yeah, you're right.
I mean, like, what's the odds, man?
Yeah.
That I'm the one to get knocked over. I mean, yeah, I was doing what they told us not to do, to keep your hands behind the barricade.
Who hasn't done that?
Come on, man. Like, you went to a wrestling show once in your life, and somebody that you idolize walked by, you just feel compelled to reach out and touch them. And you know what? I get mad when people grab me or slap me.
Right.
It's like my biggest pet peeve in the world. Anybody knows me know, man, Mark hate that.
Mm.
And I have to like edit myself because I was that too.
Right.
Like I can't, that you can't preach to the choir. You gotta you gotta let them, let them know that yeah, I'm you. I was once upon a time you, but let's be cordial and introduce ourselves before you
Right.
come to that.
Shake my hand. Yeah, exactly. Oh my God. It's crazy story. And so a lot of wrestling fans, we know you as the world's strongest man. But for those of us who aren't really familiar with the powerlifting world, how much strength and technique did it take to do what you were doing when you got the world's strongest man title, for example?
Well, what was harder uh, was the Olympic lifts.
Okay.
Um, you know, I started in powerlifting, so you went straight to the third sport.
Okay, that's
Uh,
where you got the world's
strongman,
strongest man.
strongman was the third and last of the disciplines that I did. Um, I was the three-time state and three-time national champion
Right.
and junior world champion in powerlifting. I set the records. The records got broken 3 weeks ago. My squat record has stood all this time since my senior year in high school.
Three
Since
weeks ago.
1990. Yeah,
Oh my
kid
God.
from Louisiana. Man, I reached out to him on social media, congratulating him and telling him how proud I was because I knew how much work went into him breaking that record. Because that record has stood all over 35 years, and now here it is. It got broken. The total record still stands.
Okay.
Like somebody's gonna break it one day, and I'll be happy for that person as well. Um, then I moved on from powerlifting after I won the senior world nationals, state, national, and world championships, and went into Olympic lifting. And I became national champion. I represented America 2 times in the Olympic Games. My highest world championship finish was bronze, and my highest place in the Olympic Games was 10. A lot of people think I won the Olympics, as much press as I got, but I competed against people that cheated.
Right.
And when I complained about it, I was told to stop complaining. I'm going to get the sport kicked out of the games. And I was like, no, you're getting the sport kicked
Yeah.
out of the game. And I had a smart mouth as a kid. And I felt like the world was ganging up on me. And anybody that knows me now knows how sensitive I am. Can you imagine an unedited, unrefined, halfway respectful Bart Henry when he angry
No.
as a kid? So it was a rough time, and I quit the sport.
Right.
And but I fell in love with pro wrestling, and pro wrestling fell in love with me, and it's been a great relationship. And I loved it, and it loved me back. A lot of people don't find that in their careers. I know people that are really good at their jobs,
Yeah.
but they hate it. That's not me. I fell in love with something that I love doing, and man, I've got a lot of reward, not just monetary, but just overall respect from my peers, and to be able to go into strongman, which was a completely different sport, which I almost didn't get in because I was wrestling at the time.
Okay.
but there was somebody that complained about me being called the world's strongest man. I was called the world's strongest man because of my weightlifting total and my powerlifting total combined. Nobody had got ever close to it.
Yeah.
So they were like, wow, both sports combined, like he's 180 pounds heavier than the next guy. So almost 200 pounds is a lot.
That is
And when you start talking about the best of the best. And so these guys lit a fire under me, and I started training to compete against them in a sport that wasn't considered my sport. And I, around the way, found out that, maybe that was the sport I should have been in all along, because I was tailor-made for it.
Right.
Not only do you have to be strong, but you have to be explosive and you have to be enduring. And those are all the qualities that I was blessed with, and I worked really hard to attain. So, yeah, man, I got the strong man and took the world by storm. The first time that I did some things, I set world records.
Yeah.
So that was the difference between me and everybody else. And these guys now, today, are starting to do the things that I did more frequently, but there's not a lot of them. There's 3 or 4 guys that can do the things that I did. And, everybody that loves that art, they know who those people are.
Right. And so one record was broken, but the combined one that you were just speaking about, that still stands, you said, right?
Yeah, my combined total is
so that's still there. So we can still call you the world's strongest man, even though that was broken 3 weeks ago, one of the records.
Well, once was, always is.
That's all that needs to be
said. If you become a world champion in commentating,
yeah,
they can never take that away from you. That's yours till they put you in the ground.
I love that. But so starting at the beginning, Hall of Fame career that you have, you said, so you went into the sport of wrestling, and that all started with a phone call that you were skeptical of at first when you received it from Vince McMahon, right?
Yeah, well, I talked to other people. Milo Steinborn was a friend of my coaches and my manager, Terry Todd. And he told them that, man, this dude is a big wrestling fan. Y'all need to get a hold of him. And that's how Vince got my phone number. And when he called me, I come on, man. If I'm trying to think who is the equivalent of if Triple H calls you to bar and go, hey man, I saw your podcast,
Yeah.
I want you to come in. You're gonna be like, man, this is not Triple H. Quit playing. You're gonna think it's somebody, one of your friends.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's what I thought. And come to find out, it was really Vince that I hung up on. He called me back, man, and we worked together ever since.
Yeah. Amazing that the callback came though. I mean, it was bound to happen, but I would just kick myself knowing that you hung up that phone.
But he said that wasn't the first time that ever happened to him.
Really?
Yeah, he said that there's people that didn't believe it was him before and hung up.
Oh, that's
Stop
great.
playing on the phone and hung
up.
Mark.
That's great. It must be such a cool memory to look back on now, though, after everything has happened. So you said you were such a big wrestling fan. Was it strange going from the world of being a fan to being immersed in the culture and everything wrestling had to offer back then in WWF?
Oh, it was. I mean, just to walk in a room and, see the Bushwhackers and, Hacksaw Jim Duggan walking down the hallway. And my favorite story of all of the meetings with people was I walked in and the Iron Sheik saw me, and everybody had told the Sheik that the strongest man in the world is coming, and Sheik was very proud of his clubs because Persian clubs is not just that they're heavy, it's they're awkward, and you have to know how to use clubs. It's like people train with kettlebells now. They know how to do a kettlebell, raise. I don't know if you've ever thrown a hammer before. There's a lot of people that have thrown shot put and discus, but when you throw a hammer, centrifugal force is one of the main reasons why it goes far. And you turn it and you get it going, and then you start your spin. And you spin once, twice, 3 times, and then you let it go. And the centrifugal force and your strength, boom, you let it go and it launches.
Okay.
I had trained with clubs before because my coach is a historian. And he was like, hey, have you ever tried these? And when he showed me how to do it, I remembered. So as soon as she handed me the clubs, I put them on the ground, straight down with both hands down, and I kicked it up with my knee to my shoulder. And he was like, oh, you know the clubs, like in that Sheik accent.
Yes.
And he was so amazed when he saw me circle. And opposite, you got to go opposites because the weight of the clubs help counterbalance you.
And how much do these clubs weigh? Just out of curiosity.
The Sheik said that his clubs was 130. They were really 90 pounds. But 90-pound clubs is very heavy. Very heavy. And I have a relationship with his adoptive grandsons.
Oh, that's
the guys that took care of him at the end of his life.
Right.
And they used to say all the time, like, man, Sheik loves you, man. Like you're the guy that came in and made him feel special because I respected him because of what he was able to do. And Sheik was a very strong guy.
Right.
Like I don't know if the world knows, how strong he was. To do those clubs was impressive, but that's nothing. Sheik was trained by the Gamas. And when you go through the history and read about Mighty Gama in the turn of the century and, 1910, there were Gamas before 1910. There were Gamas in the 1800s.
Mm-hmm.
And that descendant of line, he happened to be trained by one. They would do 1,000 squats a day, 500 push-ups, 500 pull-ups. They would run and they would train with different implements. Their whole day was consumed with training. And that's where the Sheik came from. And that's why he went to the Olympics. People think that the Sheik is, he won a silver medal, but he won a silver medal because he was injured, not because he didn't have the talent to win the gold. And Kurt Angle is the only one that won the gold medal. But if the Sheik would have been healthy, there would have been 2 gold medalists that wrestled.
That's amazing. I had no idea that I have heard you say before that he was trained like a weapon. Sheik was.
He was trained to be the personal bodyguard of the Shah of Iran.
Oh my God.
And everywhere you go, when you're the personal bodyguard, you don't get to carry a weapon. You have to be the weapon.
Or the weapon. That's scary.
And those guys train to fight 5 and 10 people at a time.
Oh my God.
So like the MMA, they were doing that in the 1800s, man. Like, we think everything is new. It's nothing new.
It's a circle, a cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, another freakish athlete, very close to you, your son, Jacob Henry. He is crazy, the videos I've seen of him. And I heard that he eventually wants to go into professional wrestling and that you're more than happy about that. Can you talk about some of that advice that you give someone as close to you as your son?
Uh, I don't have to push Jacob. People think that it's me holding him to it. I never wanted him to wrestle because I knew how hard it was. And he told me at an early age that he didn't want to live in my shadow. And I told Jacob, I said, Jacob, I'm like Pikes Peak or the Himalayan mountains. I cast a pretty damn big shadow, the things that I've done. And you just got to get used to make it shine in the light in that shadow.
Yeah.
And he's done exactly that. He's done things that I couldn't do at his age. And he didn't dedicate himself only to lifting. If he did, and he ate like I ate, and he was the size that I was 350 pounds at his age. He's 285 and 280 most of the time, and is playing football, made All-State in football. He qualified for state in track and throwing the shot put. Came in second in state, UIL state last year, and won open state last year. And yesterday placed second in Greco and freestyle wrestling in the same weekend.
Wow.
And is going to University of Oklahoma to wrestle. And following in the footsteps of four really great wrestlers. Danny Hodge being the greatest of them all, and Dr. Death Steve Williams and Jack Swagger. And now it'll be Jacob. And Jacob wants to wrestle, and Jacob wants to be great. And I can tell you right now, I would put his wrestling acumen up there with everybody at the top at NXT. His understanding and knowledge of the force, if you will, for lack of a better term, is, on a scale of 1 to 100, Jacob is probably about an 85 in his understanding and knowledge. And that's a 18, 19, about to turn 19-year-old kid. So when he gets 21, 23, somewhere in there, whenever he decides to become a professional wrestler, he's going to be elite. He's already physically there. He's more than mentally there. He just has to put the work in and practice the actual business of pro wrestling. And he realizes what it is to be a professional already because he sees his father's example. He won't make the mistakes that I made. Like he'll be better than me.
Yeah.
And I don't have a problem with that. I'm the only human walking this planet that wants him to be greater than I am. There ain't no man walking this earth that wants him to be better than them. But I do.
But you do.
And I was the best.
Yes.
So if that's the case, then, he's going to be fine. And I look forward to seeing what level of success he has. But I grew up, when I say grew up in wrestling, I trained in wrestling with The Rock. And I was telling Jacob, I was so jealous of him because I had been in Connecticut for almost 8 months training before he came to run the ropes and to learn how to drop down flat and learning how to leapfrog and how to grab holds and learning what they call a continental and doing 10 covers and all of these things that you have to learn in the beginning stages. Dwayne came in one day and did all that shit like it was nothing. He did it all. And he had never been trained. It was all because he watched his father, his grandfather, his mother and grandmother were in the business. Like, you can't teach what he knew. His instincts for wrestling was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, man, how did you do? He's like, man, I've seen it before. Like, we used to play in the ring before the shows. They played wrestling.
And wow.
While all of us are playing football and basketball and marbles and
tiddlywinks, wrestling.
They jumping off the top rope on grass pad. You see what there's a difference. And that's what Jacob is. I wouldn't doubt if my daughter was able to do it too. She's just as good an athlete as he is. And, we just have to get her work acumen to be like Jacob. Ain't nobody going to outwork Jacob because he's prideful. And, like, when you don't want to look second, you work first. That's who he is. Like, he gonna be a big success, and I don't have no doubt about it. And it ain't even no pressure. It ain't like putting no pressure on him. I did mocap, like motion capture for a video game.
Okay.
And I took Jacob with me.
What game was it, by the way?
I'm sorry?
What game was that? What video game was
that? It's top secret. It's coming out here. You'll hear the buzz here.
I'll be playing it. Yeah.
If you go to themarkhenry.com, it's gonna be all over it in just a little bit.
All right.
And Jacob got in the ring with some of the guys that were doing the motion capture. And he was doing things that seasoned wrestlers do. And it made me laugh. And I came back and told my wife, I was like, listen, if he just do that, he gonna be all right. After a year of training in Japan and Mexico, because I'm gonna let him travel the world and wrestle before he does a structured wrestling in America. Because in America, they want the finished product. NXT is the only place where they want to train you to be a wrestler.
Right.
But you take the risk, the same risk as the best guys, and you get less money. When Jacob goes in, he won't be looked at as a rookie, or he's going to be looked at as a guy that, yeah, we can work with him. We're not looking for, him to be average and be brought up in the same. You got to think outside the box, and he's an outside the box guy. So, we're gonna work with him. I'm gonna try to be dad and not coach, but I can't help but be mentor. In wrestling because, I just, and not only am I a full-fledged Jedi Knight, I got a little Sith Lord in me too. So
it's in there, yeah.
He's gonna get there when he's fully in his power. I don't think that we'll be entertained by many people better than him.
No, I mean, that's such high praise. And from everything you're saying, I'm so excited. And the Henry legacy seems to be in great hands, both with Jacob and your daughter. But Mark, you'd go on to spend over 2 decades with WWE, 25 years, I think, when it came down to it. Was it about 25 years with WWE? Yeah. So I'd like to ask about some moments in there. WrestleMania 22, namely, with The Undertaker, who we mentioned earlier, you talked to earlier today. But I imagine the pressure was huge for that match. I'd love to take us inside your mind though, what the discussion before an Undertaker WrestleMania match looks like and what your mindset was.
I didn't have no pressure there at that point.
Really? That's incredible.
No, um, I had wrestled a year and probably 30 or 40 matches against the Undertaker at that point. And um, I was ambitious. I wanted to have the best WrestleMania casket match that had been done. I'm in the ring, no bells and whistles, jumping off of scaffolds and,
Right.
none of that kind of stuff. I'm talking about the best physical match. The guy that beat him up the most, I call it ugly and somebody up.
Yeah.
And, like very few people were able to put the Undertaker in jeopardy.
Yeah.
And it be believable, and it be what you expected. How are you gonna get like the best guy in the world to battle back from, looking like it was over for him?
Mm-hmm.
I must have been pretty good to be able to beat a guy that put him in jeopardy. So I respected the work that I put in before. When we went to WrestleMania, I wanted to prove to the world at that point that I belonged there, that I wasn't in that spot because of my good looks. I wanted it to be because of my talent. So that's kind of how we went into it. And we had, you have to ask him. And I don't like just patting myself on the back too much because it gets gratuitous. But he said that it was I was the biggest threat outside of Kane.
And that is
And
how
he wrestled a bunch of dogs.
Oh yeah.
Casket match. And, to be there, I just feel very honored just to be even mentioned in that breath as the guys that greatest competitions that he had.
Yeah. And there was so much cool aura to the whole match too. Because yeah, WrestleMania 22. I mean, their earlier casket matches were awesome as well, but this one it sticks in my mind. I remember you being rolled out in that giant casket, by the way. That was a massive casket that was there. What is
I'm
it?
a big fella.
Yeah, but so is Undertaker too. I imagine for either one of you would have been a crazy ride. But what is your mind when you're inside the casket being wheeled out and you hear everything happening around you, but you can't see it?
Man, I'm claustrophobic. I'm gonna leave it at that.
That's even worse. Yeah.
It's even worse. I had to suck it up. And I tell people all the time, man, life ain't perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I had to suck it up.
Right.
I mean, damn near, shaking like I was freezing being in that box.
Yeah.
And, like I can't, every time you ever seen that movie Kill Bill?
Unfortunately not. I wish I know I
Good
need.
for you. You ain't missing nothing because
Never mind.
there was a scene in that movie where she get put in a box. And that's when I had to stop watching. And I never saw the finish of it. But there was a point when I'm in the movie theater and I'm seeing her get kicked into this box and they close the door and start throwing dirt on it. I went and got some popcorn because I couldn't breathe.
Yeah.
I was sitting there in a room full of good oxygen and none of it was going into my body. And I had to leave. I'm dead serious.
Right.
And, here I am, all these years later, I still haven't seen that scene because every time I flip the channels and I see it coming on TV, I turn the channel. I just, like, I'm truly, I can't get an MRI without being sedated.
Right.
I've had so many surgeries and, they had to medicate me, so it's, me going in that coffin was a big deal.
Yeah.
And I got a lot of respect when I came in the back and I flew out of that coffin and ran
That was
outside
I was gonna ask. Yeah.
and I'm trying to breathe, like just to unnerve myself.
Mm-hmm.
I turned around, standing ovation from all the talent in the back. And when you get the respect of your peers and everybody is like, damn, man, like, I'm proud of you. It's a big deal.
Yeah. No, that's huge. That feels good. I don't know if it offsets the suffocating, but that's definitely a big deal.
No, it didn't, but it
It,
was good to
but
have.
it was good anyway. Yeah.
I went to catering and ate 3 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and
that,
about a half a gallon of milk to
that
sedate
comfort.
myself.
Yep. That's that comfort food. I want to go to a specific moment in your career again. Now, this is something that when I was growing up, I saw so many different stories, and I still see the videos of whether it was real or not, or what the situation was. But you were supposed to interfere in a steel cage match with Batista and John Cena, and yeah, you rip this chain clear, just completely broke it. I'm wondering what the situation was with that. I've heard that you were supposed to rip the door off, that the chain was real. Can you take us through that moment?
Well, all of it was real.
Okay.
It's just that in TV and film, you have a magic department. And when I say magic, it means movie magic, TV magic. Hmm. And my friend Ellis was supposed to take a hacksaw and cut that chain up some so that when I put enough pressure on it, it would just open up. Ellis got busy and forgot. So when you see that master lock break and that steel chain, that was a real master lock and steel chain. You can tell anybody that'll listen to go back and watch it.
Yeah.
Like my hands shook and hurt for like 2 or 3 days after that. Like, I mean, I was, man, that was one of the top 5 feats of strength that I ever did, because how difficult and when I'm pulling on it at first, it was supposed to take like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
But it took like 9. And they let me keep going. They didn't let me fail. They could have just scrapped it, but I wouldn't quit. And I thank God that I was able to do what I did, because once again, everything ain't gonna work out and be perfect. You're gonna have failure, and you're gonna have times where it tests you. And that was the time that it tested me. I could have quit, and I didn't. And I found, that was one of those remarkable moments in my life and in my work history. And nobody can never take that from me, because they saw it with their own eyes. And the WWE people and WWF people during that time will tell you that, yeah, Ellis got discipline. And Ellis, I think, is I see him at AEW every now and then, because he works for AEW now, and I give him shit all the time. I was like, hey man, thanks for the the killing nerve endings in my hand.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, Mark, stop, man, stop. You're making me feel bad.
That truly is. I mean, a lot of things you've mentioned so far, a lot of things I've seen you do over your career are superhuman, but I don't know if anyone in the world ever who has just ripped a master lock chain. Like that's insane.
I always thought they got a TV show where they do all these experiments. These scientists.
Is it Mythbusters or no?
Mythbusters.
Okay, yeah.
And I would love for them to put like a machine that could pull a master lock. They can look at the video and see what size and which type
Yep.
it is, and they can get the same chain and put the pressure on it and see how many pounds per square inch does it take before there's a fault point and it breaks the lock. I guarantee you it's something that no other human can do.
No,
I
absolutely.
guarantee you, because it was at the limit of my strength and I was better than everybody else.
Yeah.
So, and then not only was it at the limit of my strength, but then I had to get that adrenaline. I had to get some help from God to do that. And you know, when you start screaming for, you know, power, you at your limit. And that's where I was. That was it was still forever be one of the greatest feats of strength that I ever did.
And you see it right on Batista's face too. Immediately as that lock snaps, it's just like he cannot believe what he just witnessed. Like all of us too. Um, Another feat of strength that I've heard actually the man you talked to earlier, Undertaker, tell was when you were on a tour bus and you moved a car, I believe. Do you know what story I'm referring to?
Yeah.
Can you
Yeah,
take us through that a little bit?
and when we're on the European tours, um, we go down these little tiny streets, and when you get a tour bus, I mean, it's at the bumpers of almost every car. You got to really be careful going down. And there was a car that it was parked with the ass end of the car sticking out because it couldn't park in there straight, and it was out in the street some. So the bus, we had got down probably about a half a mile. And, you know, now it's probably midnight, 1 o'clock. We got a 3 hour bus ride. So we're not going to get in till, you know, close to 4 or 5 in the morning. And they said, well, we got to wait an hour or so on a tow truck to come tow this car because we couldn't back up.
Right.
And I was like, what? Like, got angry, power walked off the bus, and they, you know, said, where? And they showed me the car, and I picked the back bumper of the car, and, you know, like there's concrete, grass, tree, and just the side of the car just hit the tree. You know, I picked it up and just threw it in and slammed it. And I
Just
know that
through a car.
whoever car that was, I bet you they woke up and saw that and was like, what in the absolute hell just happened? But when I got back on the bus, once again, it was like a standing O situation.
Yeah.
And all the guys were like, you know, hooping and hollering and stuff. Like, that was amazing. That was the best thing I ever saw. And William Regal, he said, Henry, don't you ever get mad at one of the boys. Don't you ever touch one of the boys. I was like, stop it, man. Like, you know, I went back to sleep. You know, like we got to the town, but it was it impressed the hell out of Undertaker.
Yeah. That's a crazy thing to just imagine happening. You literally threw a car. And it's not even the craziest thing you've ever done either. I don't even know if that makes the top 5. But a person you worked heavily with in WWE was Big Show, and now you're with him in AEW, Paul White. And there's a lot of people that always talk about the ring break between Brock Lesnar and Big Show, but you and him actually share a ring break moment too. I'd love to hear what that was like for you. That's a massive spot. And them giving that to you and Big Show just made the rivalry even that more bigger. So,
well, I mean, it was only right that happened with me and him because it was more weight than when he and Brock did it.
oh yeah,
You know,
makes
probably
sense.
about I mean, Show was probably about 70 pounds heavier than he was when he wrestled Brock. And, Brock weighed around 285 and I weighed like 420. So, it was a big weight difference. And if me and him went off the top rope to the floor and it didn't break, then it shits on what they did before. So, it was just only customary that happened. And, it was a good piece of business, as we would say.
Yeah, that absolutely was. I remember that blew my mind. That was the one that I grew up with more too. And Mark, I want to get into the last part of your WWE career that I want to ask about is the Hall of Pain. It really, I felt, cemented Mark Henry's legacy. If it hasn't already been cemented in WWE, that Hall of Pain is so memorable. But what do you think it is that made it so unique and special and successful? What did it bring out of you?
Because people were afraid. And people aren't afraid in wrestling no more. People they're excited to see the bad guy. Roman Reigns, they throwing up the one with him. They're like cheering for him, quasi cheering. They're singing his song and stuff. When I came to the ring, you weren't allowed to share in my victories. I took you out of that. Like, if you slap my arm and when I walked to the ring, the security was not for me. The security was for them. Because mere mortals at that time, they weren't safe from me. Oh. And I said that about anybody that wanted to fight in the world. The reason that they have weight classes is to protect the small guys from the big guys. I was the biggest. And I was not afraid of anything happening. So, that was a time where I felt bulletproof almost. I know I wasn't, but I felt like it. And everybody knew it. When I went to the airport, the people that used to hang around with 5 items, hey, can you sign this? They wouldn't say shit to me. They would ask everybody else. They knew not to ask me.
Yeah.
So I was different. And I have a shirt on the Remarkable brand that says I'm different. And it's basically saying that I'm not like everybody else, but what it is that people hate and what people are afraid of, they're also halfway excited about it. That's why you see people skydive and run high wire over alligators and shark water and, do dangerous things. They love that feeling of excitement. That's what I gave the wrestling.
Yeah.
It had been a long time since there was somebody like me that was willing to fight. They wouldn't let me fight in the Brawl for All. They wouldn't let me. There was a lot of stuff, Mark. You're not allowed to do that. Chill.
Chill.
So, people knew what I was.
Right.
And Brock Lesnar, Brock, the only person ever I felt like I got beat in a fight. He was the MMA champion.
Yeah, of course. And that's the only person.
That's the only person that ever handed me my ass before. And, he was near my size and very strong. And I got a lot of respect for him. But you would have had to be of that same cloth to get in there with me in a fight-like situation and come out on top, because I didn't punch Brock. I didn't gouge Brock. I didn't try to suffocate him or choke him. I wrestled him straight up, and he beat me. And that's just what it is. But not because I was scared of him. Like, that's who I was, man. And that's who I am to this day. Physically, I'm not what I used to be. And if somebody hit me now, I'm calling the police.
Yeah.
But back then, man, you better call the National Guard if you mess with me.
I love that. But I feel like you just brought us back to the Hall of Pain just a little bit too with all that there. It's intense. And so, Mark, you're paying all of your experience, all of your wisdom that you've shared with us throughout this interview forward now in AEW. I believe you're working more in the office with AEW than you ever were with.
Well, not so much the office.
Okay.
I work with the talent.
Okay.
I mentor. I give suggestions.
Okay.
I teach psychology. They have me listed as a coach, but I do a little bit more than that. I worked in help in marketing. I also help with community relations. I helped found the AEW community team, me and Cody Rhodes.
Yeah.
And I hated it when Cody left. But nonetheless, we still got that established. And I'm very proud of the work that Caitlin Borden does over there at AEW with their community team. And I just, I can't say enough for the people that love our business. And everywhere you go in wrestling, they want to leave something in the community that they leave it better than they found it. And I'm sitting here like really sad, man, because my phone twice now has said low battery, and I don't have a charger here. I'm not home. I'm at my at the house where my kids have to go to school. But nonetheless, man, I really enjoyed talking to you. Marsha and Stephanie are real special to me. And when they suggested that I give you a call, and I knew who you were, and I said, yeah, I will do that. So, I wish you all the success in the world, and you're going to get more clicks from this interview than you ever got before.
Thank you, Mark, so much. It's been such a pleasure sitting here listening to you. Your personality, it really does like shine through. You're such a kind soul. Thank you for your time.
Man, congratulations on your success. Keep pushing and just be remarkable.
Rewind, recap, relive. For over 50 episodes, the revolutionary force in wrestling interview.